If this is happening, like, how do you actually maintain the security profile of your enterprise when you have so many things punching a hole right through your perimeter? How do you solve this architecturally? This sounds like more of an architectural problem even than a technology problem.
It is. It is exactly an architectural problem. And I would say that in the last few years, there has been this dynamic tension between agility and security. I would also say that what we've been doing is extremely fragile. You might argue it's agile, but because the infrastructure people, the networking people, and the security people are not even aware of the hybrid services that have been deployed and are in use, they are at risk all the time of making a change that actually breaks. I mean, we see this. You see stories where, the CFO's access to NetSuite got cut off somehow. And there's an emergency change on the firewall, which usually looks like IP address, any, protocol any, allow, because that is the universal rule that is going to re-enable the CFO's NetSuite services. And we see this, and sadly with firewalls, when a rule like that gets in, it never ever comes out, because you can never know what's going to break if you take out these big rules. With regard to public cloud, and in particular SaaS stood on public cloud, the firewall has another challenge, which is you never know your SaaS service, if it gets put onto AWS, you never know which IP addresses in the AWS range that SaaS service is going to be on. So at the network firewall, you have a tough decision, and a lot of people say, well, I will just enable all AWS IP addresses, which today is roughly about 2% of all available all IPv4 addresses are actually AWS v4 addresses. So I agree, it's an architectural challenge. I think the way we've approached it is that on the data center side, you've got several pools of compute and applications, and you need to facilitate and do something differently for each pool. You obviously have your main data center cluster, and that should remain. You then have critical systems that more and more, because of hybrid, are actually exposed. You mentioned Active Directory a few minutes ago. That system used to be an enclosed, cordoned off system that was not exposed externally at all. Due to single sign-on and federation services and hybrid, it is now exposed and it is a critical system. So you need a piece of infrastructure, you need a zone in your data center to run those critical infrastructure applications and keep them extremely safe. And then the last zone you need is a secure edge services zone. All of the edge virtual machines that we talked about, all of these gateway connector virtual machines are very special. You need agility. You need a DevOps model with regard to deploying them and lifecycle managing them, but you also need tight security policy that's easy to deploy around each and every one of them, that needs to be self-service because you've got many, many teams responsible for the deployment of these virtual machines.